We're live. NCAA Selection Sunday show, the bracket show, the KarterKast bracket show. Back at it again. Another year, another bracket. The best day of the year, the second best day. The best day of the year happens on Thursday, but for right now, this is the best day of the year. There's still hope in the air. For some teams, not so much. We'll get into that here very shortly. But Ben, we have a bracket, and initial thought is this tournament is the most loaded tournament I can remember for at least a decade.
Yeah, I think the matchups, sometimes when you see a bracket come out and you like some matchups, but then you're like, ooh, I really wanted this team kind of as a double-digit Cinderella, but they're matched up against a 5 seed that I really like.
Yep.
There wasn't much of that. Like the mid-major Cinderella teams that I mostly like,
they're too much in your face.
Yes, they're in my face paired up against high major teams that I hate. So it feels like a trap. But when it comes to filling out my bracket, like as they were, listing off all the teams, listing off all the matchups, I felt pretty confident in who I thought I was going to pick, like from the get-go. Like just that, because when it comes to the bracket, like obviously want to take statistics, take recent results into consideration, obviously heavily, but it's also just sort of like you shoot from the hip.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a gut feeling for sure. So
yeah,
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Let's get into it. The selection show, the Greg Gumbel intro, fantastic. They killed it with that. And then all of a sudden, they're just like, yeah, we're getting into things. It didn't like, all right, here's the bracket. Let's start things off. It was just the smoothest transition ever into the number 1 overall seed Auburn Tigers. And you're like, oh, crap, we're doing this thing right now. All right, let's get into it. But I want to start off here. I want to talk about the teams that got screwed first. The number 1 team that got screwed in this thing is clearly West Virginia. West Virginia got bamboozled. They got hoodwinked. Whatever word you want to use. Led astray, boned.
Run amok.
That's what we're going to call
Straight
it.
Straight up deceived.
These are the 3 teams I think that got boned more than anybody else in this bracket reveal. And I'm just going to show you this, Ben. We're going to share my screen real quick, and I'll read it for the people listening on podcasts right now. This is a great episode if you're watching on YouTube, by the way. So go subscribe to the YouTube. Anyhow, you'll look at this. West Virginia's quad 3, quad 4, clean as a whistle, no issues there. You look at their quad 1 and quad 2s, 4 and 3, not some great quad 2 losses, whatever. But quad 1, you beat neutral Gonzaga, neutral Arizona, at Allen Fieldhouse, home Iowa State, and Cincinnati on the road, at Utah. Those are some legit good wins. Well, okay, how come they didn't get in the tournament, Ben? What's going on? I don't understand why this West Virginia team didn't get in. Who got in over them? Ben? Oh, that's right. This team with a quad 3 loss at home to Stanford, and then, look, a squeaky clean quad 2 against 0 NCAA tournament teams for that matter. And then, let's go to the quad 1. Oh, they beat 1 NCAA tournament team, Ben, on a neutral site? That's interesting. Well, what's their name? Oh, yeah, that's right. The North Carolina Tar Heels, Ben. The North Carolina Tar Heels got in this tournament, and who was the first one to let everybody know this was going to happen? I've seen this since day one. Everyone, you know what? I'm going to play victim here because everybody tries to say, oh, Duke's the worst, Duke's Hitler, Duke's the worst thing ever of all time, and then meanwhile, Carolina's doing the dirtiest stuff of all time. Did fake classes. They have the chairman of the selection committee as the acting athletic director. Coincidentally, they're the last team in the field. They're in the field when they have a worse resume compared to every other team that was near the bubble right there. It's a little too coincidental for me, Ben.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that bugged me the most about the decision was frankly the fact that they're like, it's like kind of like with quad 1, quad 2, like whatever. We look at these predictive metrics and it's way better than the other teams on the bubble. Well, the predictive metrics are used to determine how well you would do when you play other teams. We have seen them play other teams. that are good, and they don't beat them. So I don't care what the predictive metrics say about North Carolina. I don't care that they would say, well, in an imaginary fairy tale land, North Carolina would be 500 in quad one games. Well, I don't care. In reality, on planet Earth in 2025, they won one against a team that's in the field. I mean, they lost to Duke
3 times.
3 times, one of which without Cooper Flagg and Malik Brown. Like
on a neutral court.
On a neutral court. That should have been it. Like that should have been it. That should have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
I'm getting flamed in these comments saying I said on Friday, Thursday night, Friday morning, I said this game does not matter. This game has no tournament implications for both teams. Duke is already the second number 1 overall seed. Nothing can change that. And Carolina is in the tournament, and they're going to Dayton no matter what. A win against a Cooper Flaggless Duke is not going to bump you out. The only thing it can do is get Carolina one step closer to automatic qualification, and that would have pushed them out of Dayton. That was the only thing pushing them out of Dayton. They were making sure Carolina got in. And look, to be honest, how much of it's Bubba Cunningham, I don't necessarily know. It's got to be some part, and that's an issue in itself. The other thing is, it's like what we talked about multiple times on this podcast, Ben, is that who would you rather watch? Would you rather watch North Carolina, or would you rather watch Boise State? Who are you taking every single time? You're taking North Carolina every single time. And I feel guilty even feeling that way. But then I look at the first 4 matchups and I see North Carolina versus San Diego State, and I see Texas versus Xavier, and I go, I'm excited. I'm excited about those games.
I'm intrigued. Because otherwise it would have been saying like Xavier San Diego State and Texas Boise State. Mm-hmm. And like, let's be real, that's not getting anyone's attention. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's predetermined for sure going into the ACC tournament. And, right, it's like, okay, well, Bubba Cunningham wasn't in the room when they talked about North Carolina.
okay, hey, guys, I'm going to step out for 5 seconds. I'm not involved in any of the decision-making here. Wink, wink.
Yeah, and you think, there isn't a natural bias to
helping each other out?
Yeah, no, it's like, imagine if you were like in a board meeting and you're trying to impress your boss, and your boss is like, hey, I want you to find the best candidate for this job. Like, that's what I've tasked you guys with. Here is my son, and then here's a random person. I want you to objectively choose. I'm going to walk out of the room, walks out of the room. You know what? I think his son would do a great job. Because I want a promotion, because I want him on my good side, right? Obviously, Bubba Cunningham isn't their boss, but I think you understand the sentiment that I'm trying to get at there. Like the fact that you can't just like claim there isn't a degree of bias when the athletic director of a team that's firmly on the bubble is the head of this committee that's making these decisions. Whether he's involved with the decision directly or not, you can't tell me that doesn't play a factor.
No, you can't. It's the stupidest thing in the world, but I think we've talked about it enough. Carolina's in the tournament. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but other teams that got boned, and we'll quickly go through this one real quick. Louisville got absolutely bamboozled. They got an 8 seed, which I thought was crazy. I thought they were in contention for maybe even a 5, ended up being a 6. I thought that was absolutely crazy, but they do get to play a home game, and they get to, well, I guess kind of a home game again on their rivals' court. It's essentially like if Duke was playing a first-round matchup in the Dean Dome.
In the Dean Dome, yeah.
But they get to play, which is very unfair towards Auburn, by the way. I think that's crazy, but besides the point. And then Michigan got boned. This team went through a gauntlet of the Big Ten tournament and won every single game and did not get any benefit for it. Oh, wait, you get handed Ken Palm darling UC San Diego, a team you're only favored by 3.5 against. I think that's absolutely crazy. Those 3 teams, I think, got boned more than anybody else. And then teams that missed the tournament, y'all got boned. I know we already talked about West Virginia. I think they all have arguments of getting in, except maybe Xavier. Or, sorry, not Xavier. Yeah, no, I mean, it's West Virginia and Boise and Indiana all have great arguments of why they should have gotten in over North Carolina. Texas and Xavier.
Yeah, I do wonder if you're Indiana, if you're just like, okay, well, at least we can just kind of get things going on the coaching search front. I'm sure they still really want to be in, but
I
yeah,
wonder. I wanted to ask that. I wonder how much the Woodson knowing he's gone factored into Indiana's decision making with the selection committee. If it was Woodson's coaching for his job, is that a storyline the committee can get behind, or if it's just straight up, hey, Woodson's gone no matter what, did that hurt them announcing that he's not gonna return next season earlier this season?
yeah, no, I think it's interesting. I'm honestly not sure. I do think they're a team that they've got plenty of talent. I'm not sure if they really would have done much anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't really. We'll get into it, but I'm not really confident any of these first four teams are going to make too much noise.
Oh,
Too
okay.
much.
We'll
Too
talk
much.
about it.
Too much noise.
Teams that got lucky, Carolina, we already talked about. Memphis getting a 5. I audibly went, what? What? But they got a 5?
Against a team that wasn't going to make it in unless they were an automatic qualifier.
Exactly. It was crazy. And then UConn got lucky just because I think their matchup, but Dan Hurley's still going to complain that, oh, we got Oklahoma, and Oklahoma, they have Baker Mayfield, they're so much better. He's going to come up with some bull crap in the press conference.
Our flight was delayed 5 minutes.
I can't stand him. But anyhow, that's it. He's got to go to Raleigh. He's going to my neck of the woods, so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really glad, though, Dan Hurley stepped in the name of sportsmanship, though, the other night. Big props to him.
Gosh, I cannot stand that guy. But anyhow, all right, let's do it. It's time. Let me get my notes ready, and let's do it. It's time. It's time to start picking some
I'm ready.
brackets. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go round by round. We're going to start at the top, go down, slide on over, top, down. We're going to go round by round, and we're going to pick through each of our brackets and talk about each game and all our hypothetical matchups and everything. Let's run through it. Here we go. Ben, I will start with you on this one. Let's get over here. Oh, we didn't have it ready for you. All right, here we go. Starting at the top, Auburn, Alabama State, or St. Francis. Who wins that game?
Karter. I think Auburn's going to win that game.
Yeah, you wussed out. Last year, you would have picked St. Francis.
That's what all the Auburn fans want you to think. They want you to think that I'd pick St. Francis.
Okay, Louisville, Creighton.
You know, this is a good game. And this is a great game to start out the tournament with on Thursday morning. I'm going to go Louisville. One, because I do think the Lexington, Kentucky aspect of this is definitely going to play a factor. It's not like Creighton fans are going to like come in and take over that arena. I'm sure there'll be some. I do think that's a factor, especially when we're talking 8-9, which is practically like a 50-50. And along with that, when it comes to guard play, specifically the point guards, I trust Chucky Hepburn to be able to create a shot a little more than Stephen Ashworth. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think for those reasons listed before, I like Louisville in this one.
I think that's fair, and also to add to that, I think Creighton got absolutely screwed in this spot. Creighton having to play a literal road game.
An away game.
Yeah, it's a road game in round one, and you talked about it before, like the matchups you were hoping to see and whatnot. These two teams I was hoping to see in different parts. You know, we can talk about it later. Like Oklahoma UConn is an 8-9 matchup where I go, you gotta be effing kidding me. I was pumped to pick against both of those teams, and now I got to pick one of them to win. If those were split up and we would have gotten one of each against one of either of these teams, I would have loved to have picked Louisville and Creighton both moving on against either of those opponents. So obviously Creighton can't play UConn. So it sucks they have to play each other, but I agree with you with the having to play a road game. Michigan, UC San Diego. In this game, Michigan is only a 3.5-point favorite.
Yeah. And for that reason, I like UC San Diego in this one.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but we'll get into my picks for a second. But so you're not so the Big Ten tournament was just a waste of time, is what you're saying. That's what you're saying.
I mean, I guess so. This feels like, remember, you know how we talk about it's tough to determine which Power 5 conference tournament champions are the ones to go, oh, that actually meant something, or, oh, that's great, I get to fade them.
Mm-hmm.
This is like example A of one where I go, okay, that's great because the casual fan's going to kind of hop on them. I've been off the Michigan train for a while. I think my one concern maybe is I do think that basically the 2 7-footers, obviously they're not, Danny Wolf isn't exactly 7 feet, I don't think, but right, you get my point. UC San Diego, are they going to be able to match up with that size? And it's obviously a weird matchup, specifically on the defensive end if you're UC San Diego. But I really like Eric Olin as a coach. I think he's someone who's going to be coaching at a high major here in the next 5 years.
Maybe
His team's been
after
fantastic.
This tournament, if they make a run.
If they make a run, maybe after this tournament. Like you could see him being UCLA's coach if Mick Cronin ends up hating UCLA here in a few years. Yeah, Iowa could be one too. I think Evan Miyakawa, I saw on his Twitter page that UC San Diego statistically is one of the best 12 seeds of all time, just according to the metrics. They're a Ken Palm darling, as you said earlier. I'm kind of buying into that a little bit in this spot. It almost feels too easy for me. It almost feels like too easy of a pick to say UC San Diego. That makes me a little nervous, but I'm riding with them.
Yale, Texas A&M. A&M's a 7.5 point favorite in this game.
The Yale Bulldogs have never let me down.
So we're picking Yale.
Yeah, we're going Yale here. We talked about it earlier, especially when we had Cole on for the Mid-Majors podcast. This is a Yale team that's pretty good this year still. And they're a team that plays a specific style of basketball. They're not easily swayed. They've been here. They've done it before. I don't think in the ebbs and flows of the game that they're going to be too rattled. I think they're going to have a kind of a steady presence. Whereas a team like Texas A&M with the players they have, there's nothing steady about that group of players. Obviously, they're more talented, but you can see a scenario in which Yale goes up in middle of the second half, and then you see Wade Taylor just chucking up circus shots.
Yeah, no,
and
I 100%
you can see that losing the game for them. So I'm going Yale. Either Yale or UC San Diego will be in the Sweet 16.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's go through. I'll go through mine super quick here. Auburn. I know. I'm not high on Auburn this year. Everyone knows that, but I am picking them to win over a 16 seed. Tough stuff there. Alabama State. I know, a little in-state rivalry. Who knows if that happens? But anyhow, I'm going Louisville too, and I wanted to be different in this spot and pick Creighton because I think Louisville is going to be the sexy pick here, and I do worry about how is Louisville going to defend against Ryan Kalkbrenner. But at the same time, how is Creighton going to defend a guy like Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards like we were talking about before? Plus, we've seen this time and time again. If you have a massive geographical advantage, that does really matter. We'll talk about some other teams that have that geographical advantage in this tournament because you talk about South Carolina back in 2017. They had it was half South Carolina, half UNC fans in this building that they're just so effing pumped to see them beat Duke. Everybody was rooting against Duke. It was a Duke road game in round 2 in that tournament, and South Carolina had a home game in round 1 of that tournament. So that made a huge deal. South Carolina ended up going to the Final Four. So there's that for you. I like Louisville over Creighton. So there's that. And let's move on. I'll try and go quickly here. Michigan, UC San Diego. I was extremely I'm having a stroke today, Ben. I was extremely impressed with what I saw from Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. I thought they were awesome, and I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters at all, and I'm picking UC San Diego. Now, you talked about it briefly, but I think that is going to be the difference in this game is, Ben, what's the number one rule of March?
Do you have guard play?
Do you have guard play? UC San Diego has guard play. Does Michigan? Not necessarily. Their guards aren't bad or anything, but
their guard is a center.
yet they rely on 2 7-footers to create their offense. And that's a recipe for disaster in March when you're going against a guard-heavy team like UC San Diego. I don't know if UC San Diego has the bigs to combat those guys, but they definitely have the guards, and then does Michigan have the guards in a guards effing game in March Madness? And now, I cannot pronounce his name. I was watching their games this weekend, too. I watched a part of the UC Irvine game, and then they ended up pulling away, so I turned it off. I can't say Tate Jones's first name. It's Awiwaniwana. I cannot say it. I'm calling him Aniwaniwana. That's all I'm going to call him. And
sounds good. Anchor.
Anchor's real, though.
No, that's true. But
just a funny name. There's some other funny names I wrote down from this tournament as well. But Aniwaniwana Tate Jones, dude, he's legit. I had my concerns. I didn't catch a lot of UC San Diego basketball in the regular season, which I wish I should have. He's legit. He is very legit, and UC San Diego is legit, and they are KenPom darlings for a reason. Texas A&M Yale. Look, man, I'm going to call it like it is. Might get canceled for this take. One team's erratic and undisciplined, and one team's you're just not going to think twice about them. You know exactly what they're bringing to the table. I'm picking Yale. You thought I was going to pick against Polite Akitas and Bang Bang? No shot. No shot. I'm picking Yale over Texas A&M in this spot, Ben. There was no way I was picking against them. I know we have the same bracket here, and I was trying to avoid that, but you talked about it, is Wade Taylor, Phelps, and this Texas A&M team, they are so erratic, and we saw it in just that Texas game. What happens when they go against a rock-solid, disciplined team that doesn't step too far outside of their comfort zone, and they can light it up at the same time? And also, the other underrated thing about this first-round matchup is Yale has an elite perimeter defender to make Wade Taylor's life a little bit of hell and force Wade Taylor into bad shots. And Bang Bang. Shout out Bang Bang. He's year 2 of him. And like you said, Yale's been here before. James Jones won it just a year ago. They're not afraid to upset an SEC team. I'd love to see it 2 years in a row, basically in the exact same game, in the exact same spot of the bracket we saw 1 year ago, Ben.
Yep. Love it.
I love it. I love it.
We're in lockstep so far.
All right, lockstep so far. I got your bracket pulled up. Let's move down the list. We've got Ole Miss versus the winner of San Diego State UNC. Quickly, who's winning that first 4 games, San Diego State or UNC? UNC's a 3.5-point favorite in that game.
UNC is going to win that game, I think. Just the way that they've been playing as of late. I know that they lost to Duke twice, but otherwise they're kind of beating up on other ACC teams. Obviously, we haven't gotten to see them play like a Clemson or Louisville in like super recently. It's been a little bit, but I like UNC there.
I do too. I like UNC a lot in that matchup, and I think San Diego State, they're fine. I think they are not. They're not playing their best basketball right now, and I think they are very beatable. And I think UNC's style and the way they're playing and the confidence they're shooting the ball with right now, I think is a recipe for disaster for San Diego State. And UNC, man, they're a team. They've got guards, and all of a sudden they get a little hot in March Madness. Let's see, maybe a little something happens. So Ben, you're essentially saying it's Ole Miss versus UNC. Well, who you taking in Milwaukee?
I'm taking Ole Miss just because UNC has had a lot of opportunities to defeat teams like Ole Miss, and they haven't. Except for one time with UCLA, who is 1 seed line below them. So they're kind of equivalents, but there's really nothing, like, when I look at resumes, when I look at the evidence, that tells me that UNC is going to beat a team that's better than them. They just haven't really done it. So I'm going Ole Miss here. I feel confident in what I'm getting. I think I'm getting a better head coach easily. They've got guys who can light it up. Like Sean Padula is a guy who can get you buckets. Obviously, as BYU fans, we've seen Jalen Murray. That guy can light it up quickly. You got Brakefield. You got Malik Dia. They've got a lot of pieces I like. I like Ole Miss to win this game.
I love it. Iowa State, Lipscomb. I believe last time I checked, I have my early leans that I like on these games. Iowa State is currently wrong sheet. That is my Thursday. Iowa State minus 13.5 against Lipscomb. Any chance for the upset here, Ben?
I think there's a chance, but I don't see it. I like Iowa State here. I mean, right, we found out that Keyshawn Gilbert's out for the rest of the season. I think that severely limits the kind of run that they can make in this tournament. But with that being said, I think the athleticism, the shot making they've got in a guy like Curtis Jones, I'm assuming Lipsy is going to be back.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
back.
we haven't heard anything, but I'm assuming he's back. That's enough. Like on the defensive side, and a couple of good shot makers, Momcilovic as well. Iowa State should be able to avoid an upset here.
I don't hate it. I don't want to pick Lipscomb. I don't want to spoil my picks. So keep going. We got Marquette versus New Mexico. I don't have a line on this game. I'll get it for the people here in a second, but I'd imagine I believe it was Marquette by 2.5 last time I saw.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go Marquette here. New Mexico is a team under Richard Pitino. They are like, I think in the 150s or something like that when it comes to 3-point attempts. They're a team that plays very much up tempo. They like to get up and down the court with guys like Donovan Dent and True Washington in the backcourt. They want to take a lot of shots. They want to get to the hoop. I think playing that kind of basketball puts you in a slight disadvantage. Although New Mexico is maybe like the most purely talented mid-major team or close to it. They've got a lot of dudes, especially like a guy like Donovan Dent could be all conference at a Power 5 next year.
Yeah, maybe in Durham, North Carolina next year,
maybe
according to my sources.
Yeah. I don't think that's enough though. I think if you're a team that has less talent, I need to see you shooting more threes. I think the up-tempo style, that's something Marquette's going to want to play as well. I feel like I'm just watching two teams that want to go fast, that want to get to the hoop a lot. Because Marquette, they don't have a bunch of snipers traditionally under Shaka Smart. Like, they got guys who can hit shots. But it almost feels like, in a way, I'm getting just like a Power 5 New Mexico. Obviously, they haven't been playing great ball as of late, but I think just the experience that they have playing against other Power 5 teams is going to come through, and they squeak this one out.
Yeah, and also
Michigan State too.
Yeah, and also Michigan State, and then also not usually a bad bet to bet against the ye old Mountain West in this tournament.
Exactly, especially this Mountain West team. They just feel like I think Richard Pitino could see a lot of success once he's coaching a Power 5 program. His style of basketball doesn't suit upsetting teams in the tournament as a mid-major, in my opinion. The formula isn't there.
Ole Miss, North Carolina, I have the same matchup here, and I'm picking North Carolina. I think this North Carolina team is playing really good basketball right now. I know that first half against Duke wasn't pretty, and parts of that Wake Forest game weren't pretty, but Wake Forest makes every game not look pretty because they stink, and I'm happy they declined the NIT invite so nobody has to watch that team play ever again. But I am in on this North Carolina team right now because I think they've got the mix of guard play, and it sounds hilarious, but Jalen Withers has stepped up in a major way. I know he, a little, no pun intended there, but he has stepped up in a major way. I know that lane violation happened, but he's been playing incredible ball and adding size and length to them defensively. I think that makes a difference, and I think they have enough firepower to overcome a Chris Beard coach team. And now I do agree with you. I think Chris Beard is the better coach, and I think Malik Dia could have a major game in this spot. But I don't see Ole Miss catching up with the likes of RJ Davis if he's going to continue to hit like this. I don't see them stopping UNC, and I like UNC moving on. Now, I like to get a little crazy with my brackets, so you're going to see a lot of double digits on here as well in a super chalky tournament, by the way. But moving on, we got Iowa State versus Lipscomb. Iowa State's going to move on. Like you talked about, I don't want to repeat too much. Keyshawn Gilbert out. I think that does hinder their ceiling going forward. But at the same time, they have so much athleticism. I think they're going to annihilate Lipscomb, to be honest, and they're going to come out pissed off after that Big 12 tournament loss to BYU. Moving on, we got Marquette versus New Mexico. I didn't want to make a pick in this game, Ben. I hate picking a game like this. I'm picking Marquette. I'm picking Marquette, and I don't want to. But you know what I don't like, Ben? I don't like when I know a coach isn't going to be there next year and that coach is very clearly going to take another job and it's probably already accepted another job elsewhere. I think that does matter going into March Madness. Now, we saw Danny Sprinkle won a game last year with Utah State and was able to manage that. But when you're going against a team like Marquette, I don't know if I want to bet against that. And I know Marquette, like you talked about, has lost a lot of their games recently. They haven't beat a tournament team since the dawn of man, January 3rd, for example. So, but I think this is a really good matchup for Marquette, and I think Cam Jones outplays Donovan Dent in this spot, and Donovan Dent's on the next plane to RDU, and he's playing for John Shire next year. So it's not a win. It's a win-win situation for me. And then Michigan State moves on as well. So that's it right here. So quickly right here, if you're looking on here, we've got Auburn versus Louisville in the second round, UC San Diego, Yale, UNC, the winner of UNC San Diego State versus Iowa State, and then Marquette versus Michigan State. That is my winners in the first round. I will share Ben's real quick, and then we'll move on. Auburn versus Louisville, UC San Diego, Yale, same thing. Ole Miss, Iowa State, Marquette, Michigan State. A little chalk in the bottom half, Ben. A little LeBron throwing up the chalk.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be chalk in some places, but I'm going to be crazy in some places as well. So,
all right, let's move on. We got Florida versus Norfolk State. The only thing I will warn you about this one, Ben, Florida minus 28.5. Norfolk State could not have asked for a better draw because it's a very short drive for them. They're going to have a big crowd there at this game. Maybe more Norfolk State fans than Florida fans at this game.
And with that being said, I like Florida to win by 25.
Oh, whoops. If you're listening right now,
you got excited.
Yeah, if you're listening right now, I put Norfolk State in a Sweet 16. So anyhow, all right, moving on. UConn versus Oklahoma. UConn a 4.5-point favorite. We've wanted to fade both of these teams. Game is in Raleigh. Where are you going here, Ben?
I'm gonna go with Oklahoma in this one. I don't like it. As we talked about, this is one of those matchups that you don't like either team. But I do think I was a massive Oklahoma hater. They have been playing a little better. They had a good win against Texas. They've had a couple of very close losses to Kentucky, both off of buzzer beaters by a former Oklahoma player, which that's got to be a kick in the nuts if you're Oklahoma. But I think Oklahoma gets it done. I think this is a spot where everyone's going to assume UConn wins. There's always like an 8-9 where everyone is on the wrong side, and this feels like it could be that one, in my opinion. So I like Oklahoma.
Memphis, Colorado State. Colorado State is favored by 2.5 in this game. Tyrese Hunter got hurt in the American tournament. It looks like he might be out for the tournament, the NCAA tournament, which is brutal for Memphis. Now Colorado State playing super hot ball, automatic qualifier from the Mountain West. Who wins this game? Colorado State favored by 2.5.
I think with the Tyrese Hunter news, this one is one of those ones I was having some trouble with. I think I'm going Colorado State. Just because winning the Mountain West tournament, and especially in kind of the dominating fashion they did, that means something, especially dominating a team like Utah State that's also in the field. And Memphis, although they feel like a team that is going to lose in the tournament to a mid-major, but if they were playing a Power 5 team, I feel like they get up for those opportunities and potentially win them. I also think Nico Medved is a much better coach than Penny Hardaway.
Now, do you worry that he's already apparently accepted the Minnesota job, and there's that little element to it?
Not, I mean, maybe mildly, but I do feel like this game is just kind of put on PJ Haggerty and Dane Danger, whereas Colorado State, they've just been playing lights out. It's tough because we haven't seen them play a team of Memphis's stature. But if I don't know between like a 5 seed and a 12 seed, if it's a coin flip, I'm going to err on the side of picking the upset. So I'm going Colorado State. And then oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, and then Maryland versus Grand Canyon. Maryland an 11.5-point favorite in this game.
I am not buying I think that Bryce Drew is not a very good coach. Watching them last year, watching Grand Canyon against St. Mary's, I remember coming away from that matchup going, that's not a very well coached team. And obviously, he had his like 0-18 SEC season as well. This is Maryland's spot. I just don't overthink it. This Grand Canyon team's not all that good. Maryland felt easy for me.
All right. All right. So we'll dive into those in a second. Real quick, Marquette versus New Mexico. I'm going to put out all my picks on Twitter and everything. I love the over in that game. 152.5. I love that number right there. But anyhow, different story. Florida, Norfolk State. Unfortunately, I'm not going to ride Norfolk State. I wish I could, but it's just not in the cards. Anyhow, UConn, Oklahoma. Game I just hate. I texted you. I just texted in all caps. Ew. You gotta be freaking kidding me. Man, just the kumbaya, a little handshake. I'm picking Oklahoma. I'm picking Oklahoma in this spot. It's the same thing like you said. Everybody and their mother's going to be picking Dan Hurley and UConn. They're going to see them on this bracket and go, oh, yeah, of course they're winning. It's Dan Hurley, UConn. They're going to win that game. And I don't like this pick. I actually hate this pick, but I'm not picking Dan Hurley and UConn. I just won't. So let's move on. Memphis, Colorado State. Colorado State's favored in this spot, and they're an underdog. They're 12. I have to take that every single time. And shout out Clifford. This dude is playing out of his freaking mind right now. What a Mountain West tournament he had. And like you said, Medved, great coach. It looks like he's going to take the Minnesota job and everything. And I don't know how much that matters, but I think the Tyrese Hunter stuff does matter because I think it's going to be kind of similar to what we see with A&M with Wade Taylor, where they're just going to be asked to chuck so many shots, and I just don't think that's a sustainable way to win in March Madness. And then Maryland, Grand Canyon, you touched on Bryce Drew. You don't think he's that good of a coach. I 1,000% agree. I think Maryland mollywops Grand Canyon in this spot. I don't think this Grand Canyon team is good at all. I think they get absolutely taken to the woodshed against Maryland. I love Maryland with the points in this game, minus 11.5. I don't think Grand Canyon has a chance to win this game. And people are going to pick Grand Canyon to win, and I don't see a world where they beat Maryland, to be honest, Ben.
No, this feels like one that's going to be a trap for a lot of people. And it feels like one that I would have maybe picked in the past, being upset happy. And then you go to like the under 16 timeouts, like 18-5. And you're like, oh, oops, I made a mistake here.
Yeah, so that seems like you're in high school and you're like, yeah, I'm going to pick Grand Canyon. And then all of a sudden you're like, Derek Queen has 32? You're like, oh, yeah, the Grand Canyon doesn't have a single answer for Derek Queen. Yeah, should have thought about that one. But let's move on. Bottom half of this bracket, Missouri Drake. This is going to be a fascinating game. Missouri's about a 5.5, 6.5 point favorite, depending on where you look right now. Are you picking the upset here, Ben, with Drake?
I am. I'm going with Drake in this one. And we talked about it before. Like, I think that Drake is a team that is going to have an advantage against some of these high major teams because they're going to limit possessions. Mm-hmm. So although Missouri obviously has a massive talent advantage, especially considering the fact that it's like Southwest Missouri, the D2 school that Ben McCollum was at last year, a lot of those guys like Bennett Sturts and company are on this Drake team. I do think, though, they limit possessions. They play very methodical basketball on both ends. Missouri's a team that, although they've shown a massive turnaround from them this year, I just don't fully trust them, especially when you're getting a lot of your points from like guys like Mark Mitchell and like Caleb Grill. I just like Drake in this matchup.
Yeah, I worry about we can dive into it a little bit, but I do worry about Drake getting just swarmed defensively by this Missouri team where their size and athleticism just intimidate Drake too much. That's my biggest concern going into this one.
No, and I think that's valid, just the talent discrepancy. But this is my third, actually not my third year in a row picking Drake, but like Drake's got to win at some point. They're
Yeah,
due.
they just gotta
They're
win at
due in
some
this
point.
tournament.
All right, that's it right there. That's what we needed. Texas Tech, UNC Wilmington. Tech is a 15.5-point favorite against the Colonial champs.
I don't have a massive like a ton of insight into this game. I like Texas Tech here. They're a team that is kind of underrated, I think, by the public. They didn't have a good showing at all against Arizona, but I think they're able to bounce back here. Go to Kansas, Arkansas.
Kansas is a 5.5-point favorite. This game is in Providence, Rhode Island. Unfortunately, I don't know if Jeff Goodman is allowed in Providence. My employer at the Field of 68 with church ball.
I've sent you this GIF. I sent you the GIF right after they announced Kansas, Arkansas. It's like the guy looking in the window, rubbing his hands together with just the face looking all serious. You don't think I'm pitching that I'm picking Coach Cal against?
There you go, Hunter Dickinson over Coach Cal. That's what you like, Ben.
No. If you know me, you know that I like Coach Calipari for no reason at all. And you know that I'm low on this Kansas team. And I like St. John's. Beautiful job by the committee giving us a Rick Pitino, John Calipari second round.
Oh my goodness, it was glorious when I saw that. When I was sitting there, I was like, wait, who are the teams left? You start doing that on Selection Sunday, and you're like, whoa, wait, that's left? That's left? And so, yeah, I was very excited about that as well. I'll quickly run through this. I'm still picking Drake over Missouri. I think Bennett Sturts does have a big game. And like you said, I worry about Caleb Grill and Mark Mitchell relying on them heavily to score in March Madness when I kind of want to go with the proven scorer more in this game, even though I think Missouri can overwhelm Drake defensively. But give me Bennett Sturts and Drake. I have a good feeling about that one. Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. My only insight is I watch Wilmington in the Colonial couple games, and oh my gosh, this team sucks. This team stinks. I actually had a really bad time watching them. Was it because I was involved with Big Cat trying to win his overs bet and go 17-0 at that point? Yes, but also, my goodness, this team going against Texas Tech, I think Texas Tech absolutely rolls in this one, and I like Texas Tech even with the big number, and I don't like taking big spreads with favorites, but I like Texas Tech in that spot over UNC Wilmington big time, and JT Toppin, Darren Williams, that team is freaking good. We'll get into them a little bit more later when we move on for the rest of our bracket. Kansas, Arkansas. Like you said, Ben, I mean, this has to be the CBS tip-off game. Oh, wait, no, this is Thursday. I guess it can still be. This is the game you're looking forward to most in that day. Kansas versus Arkansas, Cal versus Self. Script writing. It was script writing, 100%. They went to Hollywood and said, hey, what game can we get? Kansas, Arkansas? Yeah, we'll take that one. We need it bad. 7-10 matchup. And you're telling me I'm getting Arkansas plus 5.5 in this game, 5.5 point underdog, plus 180 on the money line? Give me Arkansas every which way, Ben. I'm taking Coach Cal to win a first-round game over Bill Self in Kansas because, once again, Ben, Kansas can't shoot the ball. They can't shoot. How are they supposed to start shooting the ball out of nowhere? And Arkansas is defensively, I think, even can be better than Kansas. I don't know what Kansas does better than Arkansas, which is crazy to say because they haven't had a great season. But Kansas is playing at such a piss-poor level right now where they barely got out alive of that UCF game. And Arizona handled them for 40 minutes in that Big 12 tournament game. And Kansas has been getting handled throughout Big 12 play. I don't see. I love Arkansas here every which way, and I think the Hunter Dickinson era ends in this game as well. And Bill Self, the retirement rumors start flying after this one. St. John's over Omaha. I think the trash cans don't get beat up. Shout out Omaha though. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the other side of the bracket. While I get this set up, let's go to the top. Let's go to the top. Here we go. All right. Oh, there we go. Can you see it, Ben? Everything look good?
Yeah, I can.
All right. We're in the East region now. We've got Duke, the number 2, 1 overall seed, and we got them playing against either American or Mount St. Mary's. Now, Ben, I know you and your family have a tradition of picking against Duke, so I will gladly let you pick American or Mount St. Mary's in this one.
I appreciate the offer. I think I'll pass.
No. By all means, just take it.
No.
Right.
I like Duke.
Oh.
In a close one.
I think you're okay. There you go. That's what I needed there. Mississippi State versus Baylor. Baylor is slightly favored in this one at 1.5. This game is by far, in my opinion, the hardest one to pick.
Yeah, I was just about to say this is a tough one. I'm going Baylor. We talked about this. We're gonna be wrong, but we have to do it. Well, we need the Jeremy Roach revenge game. We just have to set that up.
Can I talk about that?
I mean, I'm kidding. I don't know.
No. But it's a bigger picture thing because
yes,
you're telling me Bubba Cunningham didn't go, okay, let's make sure Jeremy Roach, let's get that Jeremy Roach revenge game against Duke. And it's like, which of these 4 seeds could we pair Duke up with? Caleb Love in Arizona. Yes. Oh, and then let's get Alabama, the team that knocked out the Carolina Tar Heels last year. Yeah, let's have them try and knock out Duke. I don't know. It's just a little suspicious from old Bubba Cunningham over there in Chapel Hill. Just wanted to point that out. But you have Baylor moving on over Mississippi State. Why is that?
I think we talked about it. Josh Hubbard is one of those guys that can be a Kemba candidate. But I also thought that last year. And it didn't materialize the way I thought it would against Michigan State. I do think Baylor, when it comes to Mississippi State, I really like Hubbard. Outside of him, I'm not in love with them. Whereas I think Baylor can beat you with a few different guys. I like Norchad Omier in this matchup. I like VJ Edgecombe as a guy who can take over and be the best player on the court. I think Roach and Wright are 2 different guys who basically combo guards, guys who can play the point, that are able to match up with Hubbard in a way that I think at least slows them down enough for Baylor to win. I mean, with that being said, my confidence level on Baylor's 51-49. So,
yeah. All right, let's move on then. Let's go Oregon Liberty. Oregon versus Liberty in this one. I got the number right here. Oregon is a 6.5 point favorite in this spot against Liberty. Who you got?
I've got Liberty.
Explain.
I think Liberty has a guy in Matheny. Watching him in the semifinals against Kennesaw State, he was shooting and making shots from gym range. I just think Liberty has that kind of explosive scoring ability, especially from deep. That is a recipe to beat a high major team in a 5-12, 4-13, even 3-14 matchup. We talked about it. I do think Nate Biddle is a guy that will cause Liberty issues. Oregon has size and length that Liberty does not have. But with that being said, I'm gonna ride with Liberty here. Coach Richie McKay.
Arizona versus Akron. Arizona is a 13.5 point favorite in this game.
I'm going Arizona in this one. MAC teams haven't done as well as I thought. Kind of lately. Did the MAC team last year win? I don't think so.
Toledo?
Yeah, I don't think they won.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I can get stats department on it.
But I think the last time that a MAC team won was Ohio beating Virginia. I'm going with Arizona in this matchup. I've seen very little from Arizona to make me think they'll lose early.
I've got it right here. The MAC team that made it last year was... And we're still looking here because it is not popping up easily for me for some reason. Did a single MAC team make it last year? I'm looking through here. Am I crazy? Am I missing it? Akron. It was Akron versus Creighton. Yeah, nothing happened in that game.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I remember that one was never in doubt at any point.
Yep, 77-60 Creighton. So Anyhow, so Ben has Duke versus Baylor, Duke moving on, Baylor moving on, Liberty and Arizona all moving on. All right, I love it. Let me get mine pulled up, and then I'll go through my picks here as well. Excuse the coughing, man. I'm still freaking feeling this. All right, Duke is going to beat American or Mount St. Mary's. I worry about Mount St. Mary's, and I'm just kidding. Duke wins. Mississippi State versus Baylor. Like I said, this is the toughest freaking game to pick because I believe in Josh Hubbard. I love Josh Hubbard. I think he can be a Kemba candidate, like you were saying. He was my Kemba candidate when we did that show with Cole. I love Baylor. The Baylor guards is just what you want to bet on in March with Jeremy Roach, VJ Edgecombe, Rob Wright. I mean, that is a three-headed monster that should be playing better than they are. And unfortunately, Ben, I have to tell you here, and I'm going Baylor because I think we are going to get that Jeremy Roach versus Duke revenge game matchup that the scriptwriters definitely wanted. And I just think Baylor has more talent in this spot where I don't know if Mississippi State necessarily has answers for their guards. And Mississippi State, everyone has this weird portrayal of them as this locked-in defensive team because of a couple years ago when Chris Jans first got there. They're just not that. They give up a ton of points. They give up. They're in overs games, to be honest. So I like Baylor. I don't think Mississippi State will have enough. And Baylor feels a little bit like that team that's just kind of been effing around. Like, all right, we're gonna turn on the switch right here, and then they're gonna turn it on for this Mississippi State game. You're like, oh, here we go. And then they're like, wait, we got to play Duke. It's like, yeah, well, because you effed around all year and didn't give yourself a 6 seed to actually do anything with.
Yeah, and I could see them doing it for like 10 minutes against Duke. And then being like, okay, that's it.
The first half, I'm going to be sitting there calling my cardiologist, being like, I'm going to die. I can't deal with this right now. So,
exactly.
Anyhow, Oregon versus Liberty. Going to tell you here again, too, Ben. I like Liberty a lot. I loved watching this Conference USA. And their two guards, Peters and, like you said, Matheny, that they have a chance to really make some noise in March Madness. Unfortunately, I think they're going to have to go against a buzzsaw, potentially against Arizona or Duke. But, they are fun to watch. I do agree Oregon size can be a problem for them, and Dana Altman randomly plays kind of well in March for some reason, and a very annoying coach to play against, but give me Liberty, and then I'm taking Arizona versus Liberty in this, and I'm taking Arizona over Akron. I love the Zips, but they were playing with their food. They had no business winning that game against Miami of Ohio in the MAC title game. Give me Arizona and Caleb Love to move on there. So we basically have the same thing in this one. We do have the same thing, not basically. So let's move on. I'll switch over to your bracket real quick. Share this tab instead. All right, Ben. I talked about this a little bit on the Church Ball live stream. BYU versus VCU. The line is now -2.5 for the Cougs in Denver, Colorado. Who you taking?
I'm taking BYU here. Though this is as bad of a matchup as you could really ask for if you're BYU. VCU is a team, I think I saw that they have 4 players that average 10 or more points a game. I believe that's correct. Along with that, they're one of the more balanced teams in the country, especially one of the more balanced mid-majors, if not the most balanced mid-major. They're a team that plays really hard on the defensive end. Offensively, they're trying to push the pace. They're good at generating wide open 3-point shots. With that being said, this group, guys like Max Shulga, Philip Russell, etc., they're very streaky shooters. So I'm curious to see what we're getting out of them this game. Obviously, there's a lot of rumors about Ryan Odom in this coaching cycle. Presumably, there's a good understanding amongst people on the UVA side that he has already accepted the UVA job. With that being said, I don't view that as a potential distraction because this is a team, like 6 of their top 8 or 9 guys, it's like either 5 or 6 are seniors. So I don't think those guys are particularly concerned about that. I also think in Denver, we're talking about a team that's going to be going up against size and length and athleticism that they really haven't had to face all season in the altitude. So I'm going with BYU here. And then on Sunday night, we get a post from Rothstein saying that Ryan Odom's agreed to a whatever year deal to be the Virginia Cavaliers' next head coach.
It might not. I might not even wait until Sunday. It might be that press release
It might
be out
it might
Friday
be
afternoon.
Yeah, no. I think we're gonna find that out this weekend. Like
We're
pretty
gonna be in the
soon.
middle of eating some KFC, and all of a sudden, Ryan Odom's gonna be announced as the Virginia coach.
Yep, and it's a bummer because I think this is a VCU team that I just think the matchups are not in their favor.
I mean, but like
It's
to be
a tough
honest,
matchup for them.
to be honest, okay, but look at the other 6 seeds. They play against Illinois, they play against Missouri, and they play against Ole Miss. To be honest, maybe Missouri I feel like they could beat. Outside of that, I think all of those are tough matchups for them.
No, it is. They're a tough matchup themselves, though. I think when they play 6 seeds, you go, ooh, like I don't think BYU's psyched to be playing VCU.
I think that's fair. Wisconsin, Montana. Wisconsin's a 17.5-point favorite in this game. Can the Grizzlies get the upset in Denver?
No, I don't see it. I'm going to go with Wisconsin here. They played a little bit better in the Big Ten tournament, at least enough to give me a little more confidence in them, especially having – like Montana just doesn't have a guy on the court as good as John Tonji, and that'll matter a lot.
100%. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt.
St. Mary's is a team, they kind of chugged along in the WCC with a lot of – I mean, right, they lost – Aiden Mahaney to UConn. They lost Josh Jefferson to Iowa State. Those were kind of their two workhorses last year. Frankly, I just don't see the talent. I end up getting tricked by St. Mary's and picking them to be a second weekend team. Vanderbilt, under first-year coach Mark Byington, they just have a lot more talent. They played in the SEC where they're getting beat up a lot, and I think that matters. I think they're more battle tested and they just have more athletes, more shot makers. I think they kind of overwhelm St. Mary's a little bit, especially on the offensive end with the kind of offensive scheme that Mark Byington runs. It's going to be an interesting matchup with him and Randy Bennett's defense, but I think Vanderbilt's offense wins this game. And Alabama over Robert Morris.
Yep, Alabama over Robert Morris. I picked that one for you. I don't think we needed to waste
Yeah, appreciate
that one. Let's move on. I got mine right here. BYU versus VCU. I talked about it a little bit on Church Ball, and I'll do an extensive preview tomorrow. I've watched some VCU film already tonight, and I like BYU a lot in this matchup. I think the 2.5-point spread's actually kind of crazy. That's the only thing that kind of scares me in this spot. But when you watch VCU play and you watch the matchups, I actually think BYU matches up very well, and people are going to pinpoint to, okay, VCU can play a little more physical. They like to slow it down a little bit. Isn't that exactly what happened to BYU against Houston? But guess what? VCU is not this Houston team. That's the issue there. And then on top of that, I think BYU is going to be able to push the tempo in this game, and they have a home court advantage. Geographically, that place is going to be 75% royal blue. It is going to be all BYU fans in that building. This is, without a doubt, a road game for VCU in this spot. Brutal, brutal spot for them to be in. And BYU has a lot of talent. I don't worry about them at all after that Houston game, to be honest. And I think this matchup's good enough for them where it's, you're going to be scared because BYU has a terrible track record in the tournament, but this isn't your same BYU team of years past where they have to rely on a bunch of three balls, or it's a bunch of white dudes from Utah that you're solely relying on. No, this team can win a bunch of games. This team can make a little bit of a run in March Madness. They are super talented, and I actually think they're going to be more physically imposing than VCU will. And also VCU, they haven't played anybody really this year. They haven't played anybody in the top 40 of KenPom. I think that's crazy. And VCU, I wasn't super impressed from the A10 tournament, even though they won. And then I watched some more film of the regular season stuff. I think Ryan Odom's a great coach. I think he is well overachieved with the team he's been given. Give me BYU over VCU in that spot. Wisconsin's going to take care of Montana. John Tonji is going to be the best player on that court, and like you said, and if you told me that, like, weirdly, hey, Wisconsin's in a 7-point game at the under 4 timeout, you're like, what the F? And then they end up winning by like 14. I wouldn't be surprised at that point. St. Mary's versus Vanderbilt. Not going to overthink this one. I'm going Vanderbilt. I know I accidentally clicked St. Mary's there, but give me Vanderbilt over St. Mary's in this spot. I don't like what I've seen from the St. Mary's team, and I think they've coasted in a dog crap WCC, and they have looked amazing in it. But that style of play, VCU is the worst style of play for March Madness, where they play slow and methodical. They can't light it up really from three, yet they're not super physically imposing, because if you're a defensive team, you got to be physically imposing and got to make life hell for a lot of these teams, like those old UVA teams or Houston right now, or even a VCU in a way. St. Mary's does none of that, and Vanderbilt has played against the best of the best this year and has done great against it. I think we see a rematch of Alabama versus Vanderbilt in round 2, Ben.
Yep, I agree 100%.
All right. Not much there. All right, here we go. We're a lot of the same picks, but I think once we move on past these, we'll get through this first round, and then we'll breeze through the rest of it because it's all hypothetical matchups anyway. So in the Midwest, Houston versus SIU Edwardsville. Houston is a 28.5 point favorite in this one. Jawan Roberts is iffy for March Madness. So Ben, does that mean SIU Edwardsville can win this game?
No.
Man, you're lame. You're not picking any of these 16 seeds.
I know. It's so sad.
Gonzaga, Georgia. Gonzaga is a 7-point favorite in this game. Who you got?
I'm going to go Georgia. Gonzaga is a team. We talk about Ken Palm darlings. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, they are so high on Ken Palm.
They're so high in Ken Palm. Evan Miyakawa, Bart Torvik, like they're high in everything. And I just don't quite see it.
They're ninth in Ken Palm.
That's insane. Like, I like Ryan Nemhard. Like, I think he's a great player. I think they've got some experienced guys like Graham Ike. You got Michael Ajayi, Nolan Hickman, Huff, Greg. But Georgia's a team that I think comes out a little more hungry. I think people are going to like Gonzaga just because they're kind of a household name. But this team isn't all that talented. They have a lot of concerns on the defensive end, especially. Whereas with Georgia, I think a lot of these guys kind of coming to the tournament for the first time, they're going to be very hungry and motivated to get at least just that one win. I think a guy like Blue Kane could be a big X factor in making a few threes. He was one who they drew up a play, Mike White did, for him to get a big three to beat Florida. And then they also, just on Gonzaga's side, they don't have an NBA guy like Asa Newell. So I like Georgia there. We go down to Clemson and McNeese.
Clemson is a 7.5 point. Let me double check here. Stats department, 7.5 point favorite.
And I like Clemson here. I think a lot of people are going to like McNeese State. They're going to like Will Wade. We saw after they played in they're in the SoCon, right?
No, they're in the Southland.
Oh, that's right. Even worse. Like, I just don't think they're having much competition when it comes to their conference. And along with that, I think we all got excited about them last year as well. And they weren't very battle tested. They kind of got worked by Gonzaga. Clemson's not a weak 4 or 5. I think they're actually a very strong 5. I like Clemson a lot. I think Clemson wins this game. I think Will Wade's got a foot already out the door.
Hopefully in Raleigh.
Yeah, either in Raleigh or if Will Wade started his career, went to Clemson, I think he is really eyeing that Clemson job in case Brad Brownell is the guy at IU.
I would be shocked if Brad Brownell ended up at IU.
I would be too. But I think he's got his eyes set on Raleigh right now. I like Clemson. And it comes to this one.
Purdue, 9.5 point favorites against my sweet Allen Sussy for Hussey, the Huss Bus High Point Panthers.
We're sussy for Hussey in this one.
Yeah, let's not even overthink this one.
It's just, this is a team that we fell in love with on the mid-major side. And this is one of the high majors. You have Braden Smith, who's a traditional good point guard who can sometimes get you buckets, but he's kind of passive at times. And it's basically like Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman, Wren is a good presence down low, and then just a bunch of role players. Fletcher Lawyer hasn't become the guy that I think people in West Lafayette wished he had been. You used like it felt like they brought back a lot of guys who were role players last year, and with Zach Edey being gone, we're like, okay, these guys are going to step up. It just didn't really happen. They had some regular season success, but they've been playing bad basketball lately. High Point's the move here.
Yeah, I'll get into mine in a second. I guess I'll just flip on over because hey, let's make this easy, fellas. Houston, they're winning. I'll talk about Gonzaga, Georgia in a second. Clemson, I like Clemson a lot against McNeese State in this spot. I like them with the 7.5 as well. Will Wade and Jeff Goodman had Will Wade on an interview at the Field of 68, and he said, Jeff Goodman asked him, he goes, so what are you most looking forward to? Like, what's an ideal NCAA tournament matchup for you? He goes, well, a team that doesn't, it kind of has guards that are a little erratic and you turn over the ball a lot. And then, they're not a big team. They don't have great size or anything. And what does Clemson have? Chase Hunter is as steady as they come, and then Victor Locken and Ian Shefflin are as big as they come, and they are very, very, very good. This Clemson team, I think, waxes McNeese State, and I think Will Wade says sayonara to McNeese State, and it's all of a sudden starts howling in Raleigh, North Carolina, literally the next day, to be honest.
No, I agree 100%. That's funny because Will Wade basically was just like, it's like, what would you guys match up well with? It's like, well, I think we'd match up well against like a team that's just not very good.
North Carolina. I think he
honestly,
I think he was subtweeting North Carolina or Kentucky.
Yeah, no, literally. That's exactly what it sounded like. That's funny.
Let's go Purdue High Point real quick. I know I'm going out of order here, but Purdue High Point, I've been so excited for this game. Man, that arena at High Point was bouncing at Selection Sunday. They had an awesome crowd there. So shout out the High Point Panthers. And of course, I'm picking them over Purdue. This was a matchup that was written in the stars. You could close your eyes and you see it. Originally, I thought it'd be Michigan, and I'd be like, okay, High Point over Michigan, easiest upset of my life. Then Purdue, and I thought about it again. I go, oh my gosh, that's even easier at this point. Now, I do love Braden Smith. I think he's unbelievable. And they're going to have a problem with Trey Kaufman-Renn as well, like you said. But you know what's funny here, Ben? Which of these teams has an NCAA tournament champ? You'd think Purdue, right? They've been to the NCAA title game, had guys that played in it. Well, High Point has an NCAA tournament champ running the show, coming off the bench sometimes, in Bobby Pettiford. They've got guys in this team. Keza Jiffa, I'm all in on this High Point team. Give me High Point over Purdue, and I think this Purdue thing just kind of runs its course, and everyone realizes like, okay, like this season. To be honest, I don't even think Purdue fans will be that upset. Like, I just think this season for Purdue is just a massive, massive hangover. Even though they've had a pretty solid year, it's still just a massive hangover from losing to UConn in the title game from last year.
It's very much a transition year for them.
Which is so ironic because they still have had a good year, but it feels like there's just been no hope around that program.
No, and right, we talk about Purdue very much being on that Virginia-like timeline. After kind of quote-unquote breaking through, they didn't win the national championship like Virginia. They came back out and became the team that loses in the tournament when they're not supposed to again.
I love it.
So I'm going to say that continues.
Gonzaga, Georgia in this game. Like we said, Gonzaga 7.5. That's because they're the KenPom darlings. I think we're getting a great discount here in Georgia. I think the sports books, they rely so heavily on KenPom and those analytics and everything. But when you break this game down, I worry so much about Graham Ike even just staying in this game because these NCAA tournament refs like to call it very tight, and Graham Ike just cannot stop fouling. I mean, it's like giving a meth addict meth. This dude loves effing fouling. He cannot get enough of it. And so, therefore, give me Georgia in the spot. Like you said, Newell and Blue Cane. I think that Georgia has the size actually over this undersized Gonzaga team. Now, I do love Nembhard at the point, but at some point, I worry about them defensively. I don't know how they're going to stop a guy like Newell, like you were saying. And I just think you're getting a massive discount there if you're betting this game. I like Georgia with the points, and I like Georgia to win this game outright. I hate that we're so in line here, but it is what it is. I think we just might know ball. That's just what inside sources are telling me, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, they're just the right picks. I'm sorry that they're the same.
I think we're looking at a perfect. One of these is perfect.
Yes, I agree. And we were talking about it, like, right? Some years you get a lot of these, oh, that's tough. That's a tough matchup. I don't know where to go with this. One or two of them? I don't know. Like, I've just been pretty, like, seamlessly, like, I feel confident in this. I feel confident in this. I don't know. I'm just seeing the bracket well this year.
Yeah, I feel like I'm seeing it very well. Even in my upset special bracket, which I will release at a later date, that is one near and dear to my heart. So I've done a rough draft, and I have some tinkering to do. But anyhow, let's move on. Bottom half here so we can wrap up this first round. Illinois versus the winner of Texas Xavier. First off, who wins Texas Xavier?
Oh, that's tough. I'm going to go Texas.
I say the over, and let's both score a bunch of points.
Yeah. I'm going to say Texas just because I think Texas is one of those teams where they've been kind of irrelevant all year. And then you're watching them a little more closely in the conference tournament. And you go, oh, yeah, they have Mark. Oh, yeah, they have Kaluma. Oh, yeah, Shedrick's still there.
They have
Trey Johnson.
I was going to say, they probably have the best one-on-one bucket getter in the country in Trey Johnson.
Jordan Pope. Like, they've just got a lot of different guys. And I think they have too much talent, and I think that wins out here.
That's what I was going to say was I was listening to a podcast, and they were like, yeah, I just don't think Texas has the talent, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, they flat out just don't have the coach. Rodney Terry, I have it on good authority that unless Rodney Terry makes a Sweet 16 run, he is out of there in Texas. It is do or die right now for him. He's got to make a real run in this March Madness. And to be honest, if you're Texas or Xavier, you're looking at this and you're going, man, we got a nice little draw here to go to even the Elite Eight. It is not impossible to say Texas could be playing in the Elite Eight or even Xavier at that point. Do I think it happens? Probably not, but I think you're right with that Texas Xavier game because I think Trey Johnson and the talent outweighs the terrible coaching in that spot. That's always the battle you're going to be facing with a Texas team. But who wins between Texas versus Illinois?
I'm going Illinois. Though I think that's going to be an awesome basketball game.
I know. It's going to be sweet.
Illinois is playing a lot better basketball lately.
Uh-huh.
They had a lot of guys who were hurt, who were sick. They're all back. My one concern with Illinois that I think could lead them to an early round exit potentially is the fact that they shoot a high volume of three-pointers and they're not good enough to really warrant shooting as many three-pointers as they do. With that being said, though, they've been playing a lot better basketball, fully healthy, and I don't see enough from this Texas team to make me think that they can just turn it around and win a couple of games in the dance. I think they get out Dayton. I think that's about it, though. So I like Illinois. Oh, all right. Man. Kentucky, Troy.
Kentucky is a 10.5 point favorite in this game.
This is one that's hard.
You want to pick Troy?
I do.
You want to hear my reason? You want me to give my pick?
I want to hear from you on this one.
Okay, let me share my screen. I'll talk about this real quick. Quickly, I'll just do this. I like Illinois a lot in this matchup, by the way. I think Illinois is a very dangerous team in this tournament, and I love the talent on this roster. But, so you look at Kentucky-Troy. My thought process here is I'm picking whichever team is winning this game, I'm picking them to lose to Illinois in the second round. So this game is almost entirely irrelevant.
So might as well pick Troy.
In my upset special bracket, I'm picking Troy, but in this, it's like I might as well just pick Kentucky, but wouldn't it be a little funny to see Kentucky lose to Troy and then BYU beat VCU and also see Arkansas beat Kansas in the first round of the tournament?
That would all be funny. I think I needed that kind of reasoning because, right, there was no doubt in my mind. It wasn't, well, the winner of Kentucky-Troy might beat Illinois. That never crossed my mind. Illinois is in the Sweet 16 for me. Spoiler. So I do think that's good enough reasoning. You knew where I wanted to go with this.
So you're going Troy.
Yes, I just think I needed someone to push me across the finish line.
Just a stinky game. This is like last year when we saw Illinois versus Duquesne. You go, ugh, who ruined that game? Oh, wait, it was Mark Pope again.
No, literally. Or Yale, San Diego State. That's Sunday night.
Oh, that was just depressing. Danny Wolf was just getting Danny Wolf
destroyed by like Ladie.
Oh my gosh, he was getting freaking these San Diego State Aztecs balls in his face, just getting yammed on, dude. That was disgusting. And I bet on Yale too because I was like, look, you guys won me a ridiculous amount of money against Auburn. I'm riding with the boys, and oh my gosh, I sat there and I'm just like, I need a cigarette and a freaking. I don't even drink or smoke, but give me a freaking bottle of Jack and Coke and a glass of Jack and Coke and a cigarette because holy crap, that sucked so much. I hated that so much. UCLA,
we're reliving Yale. I was so mad. State.
I'm not gonna lie. Like as much as positive as they talked about Yale in this podcast already, I could not stand effing watching that team with Danny Wolf last year. They were not good. No. They were a bad basketball team, and they just effing went bananas for 3 against Auburn, and Auburn was just too stupid to win that game.
I think they're more fun to watch now without Danny 100%. Wolf. I think Danny Wolf was kind of a black hole for them, and that's no offense. Danny Wolf
the new Hunter Dickinson? People are asking. UCLA, Utah State. UCLA is a 4.5 point favorite in this game.
I'm gonna go UCLA here.
Hate the Mountain West. I
mean, right? Yeah, we don't believe in the Mountain West here. This isn't one where I
you were going to believe in the Mountain West this year. Don't you dare lie to me.
Yeah, but then the idea was much better than the reality. They were lesser seeds against 7-seed Power 5 teams. I just think I do think it's an interesting matchup because Calhoun is a great X's and O's coach on the offensive end, whereas UCLA and Mick Cronin hang their hats on the defensive side of the ball. I do think defense wins out. I think length, size, athleticism wins out in this game, like UCLA. And then I like Tennessee. Fun fact about Wofford, I'm pretty sure they have a big man who shoots free throws underhanded.
Yes, he does. Yes, they do.
Okay.
I can't remember his name off the top
look out for that. Look out for that.
I'll go through mine quickly here. First round, we'll wrap it up. I'm going Kentucky over Troy, but don't love it. I already talked about my reasoning before. UCLA, Utah State. I lean UCLA in this spot, but I don't feel great about it. This Mick Cronin team, there's just bad vibes around this entire program at UCLA. But I think defensively, they lock down Utah State. And you know what? No, we're flipping. Flip it around. Mick Cronin gets fired after this game. Utah State wins. Screw it. Tennessee versus Wofford. Give me Tennessee over the Terriers. I think that could be just a weird game as well, where you talk yourself. It's like you're in that point. I don't know what time this game's at, so this could be totally wrong. But one of these games you will do this, so it works out. Where Tennessee Wofford, it's going to be like 10 minutes till tip-off, and you kind of had a couple dud games right before that, and you're like, man, I really want an upset. So you start forcing an upset in your head, and you're like, yeah, we're going to take Wofford's spread in this game. And then you're going to see Tennessee's defense against Wofford, and you're going to go, oh my gosh, Kai Ziegler's freaking murdering these cats. Wofford can't dribble. What was I doing? I've watched 2 Wofford games all year. What was I thinking?
A team that's like in the SoCon, it was like a 5 seed in the SoCon. You just believe in them.
I'll always believe in the teams in the SoCon. But anyhow, all right.
I wanted to add UCLA, Utah State. I can't wait for Thursday night at 9:25, 9:30.
That's when
Mountain
it is,
time,
isn't it?
when the game ends, because that game's at 7:25 Mountain Time, where UCLA wins by 10, and you're yelling at me, why did I pick a Mountain West team? I can see that coming already.
I love it. I love it. Is that what time it's at? Sorry, it broke up.
7:25 Mountain Time Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
It's the earliest of the last 4 game block.
That's so spot on. Oregon Liberty that's Thursday night, right? No, that's Friday night. Oregon Liberty Friday night is it's gonna force me to not sleep till like 5 a.m. I'll be so happy after that one. But like UNCW Texas Tech is the latest game on Thursday night. Kind of really bugs me. But UC San Diego Michigan is the one that's going on your main TV.
Yeah, we might be at a point. The games might be over, except for I could see us starting to record the show at the under.
We're going live.
Of that
we're not
game.
We're not recording this week.
We're
going live.
That's what I meant. No, that's what I meant though. Is that we're going to be going live with that game being just a complete afterthought still on the TV. So.
Yeah, I love it. Hopefully we just get all amazing games that night. Like, hopefully Omaha St. John's is weirdly a weird game played in like the 40s, and you're like, it's 46-44 Omaha. They're about to beat up some trash cans if they win this game. Who knows? But I love it. It's the best time of the year. Anyhow, let's go back. We'll quickly run through these since these are all hypotheticals, so we're not going to break these games down as much. So, Ben, you have Auburn versus Louisville in round 2. Who do you have winning that game?
Louisville's winning.
Ooh, there we go.
Number
in
one
Lexington,
overall.
Kentucky.
Yes, in Lexington, Kentucky. I just think this Auburn team, I think I saw Mark Titus say it, like they seem like very overly confident. I mean, you see a guy like Bruce Pearl talking like, my guards aren't, just so you don't have to edit it out, our guards aren't wusses.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for that.
I'll say that just so you don't have to edit that out. It just feels like they're really confident for a team that's dropped 3 of their last 4, right?
Hey, Ben.
Yeah.
Haven't I been saying this for the last month and a half?
You have. I thought it was, you know how sometimes you're like in high school and you're in a relationship. Like we talked about the toxic relationship where you keep going back. And then there's one time where you think it's different. You're like, it's different this time. They've changed. And then after a while, just after a few months, it's going great. It's going great for the first 4 or 5 months that you guys are back together. But then you look and you go, you see those toxic traits come back up. You're like, oh, they're the same. They're the same.
Auburn's a dumb team.
They're idiots. They are idiots, and they're coached by an idiot too. I mean, he's a great basketball coach, but he's also an idiot. I think you know what I mean. Chad Baker-Mazara gets ejected. I'll say that. Janai Broome shoots like 6 for 14 from the free throw line, and then all their other guards are just shooting fadeaway contested foot on the line, long twos and missing them. I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating, but I like Louisville here. I think Auburn is by far, they're the number 1 overall seed. They are by far the weakest 1 seed going into this tournament.
I agree with that 1,000%. And also Auburn.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, and also Auburn got a brutal draw having to go against a Louisville team who gets a home game in round 2. This has every Duke fan understands this one. This is PTSD from 2017 with Jason Tatum. Duke versus South Carolina in Greenville, South Carolina. You cannot give an 8 seed a home game. Now, did they get screwed by seeding? Yeah, but that makes it even worse for the 1 seed. I cannot believe this spot. Ben, I'll share my screen as well if it'll just ever load, but I got Louisville winning too. I've said this since day one. I've been here when Auburn was at the peak of the SEC, the peak of college basketball. Everyone goes, Auburn this, Auburn that. It is Auburn's world. It is Auburn, then Duke, then some other teams. I said, no, it's not. Duke's above Auburn. And you can say, oh, you're biased. And I also said Florida was right there that entire time. I never gave up hope on this Florida team either. Houston, I might have been wrong about, but I'm telling you right now, this Auburn team's not making the Sweet 16. And even if Creighton wins, I like Creighton in that matchup too. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner can slow down Janai Broome, and I worry about who's going to slow down Janai Broome. But it's almost one of those games where, okay, remember when Baycott would play or Hunter Dickinson, and okay, they get their 20 and 10. How impactful is that? The problem is Auburn's guards take dumb shots. Their shot selection is pitiful, Ben. It's effing awful, and that is their biggest problem. That is going to burn
so
them in March.
That they make it.
They're so good that they make it all the time. But guess what? You cannot win 6 games in March with that shot selection. You just flat out can't. And you know what you can't do either? Janai Broome is clearly injured, and on top of that, he can't knock down big-time free throws. That's going to be how they lose this game. It's going to be 71-66. It's going to be 71-69 at the end of this game. Louisville's up 2. Janai Broome has 2 free throws to tie up this ball game, and he goes 1 for 2, and that's how Auburn bows out of this tournament. Auburn is not making the Sweet 16 here, whether it's Louisville or Clemson in round 2. I feel great about that. And I also feel like I don't think it's even crazy to say that Louisville might have the better guards in this matchup.
They might. That's more to say. That's more to credit Louisville's guards, I think.
100%. And I think
less
Pettiford,
than insult.
Tahad Pettiford can be Kemba Walker and take over March Madness and be this guy, but he can also be like every other Auburn guard we've seen for the past 4 years and just
kind of
crap the bed and take dumb shot after dumb shot. 1,000% I think Auburn can lose in the Sweet 16, and I think they will before the Sweet 16.
I love it. Yeah, I'm with you. It took me longer to get there, but I'm solidly there, and it didn't even take your swaying. Like I was already there.
I've been here the whole time. And I warned you. I said we're doing podcasts, and I go, "Hey Ben, I'm worried about Auburn. I'm worried about the shot selection. I'm worried about Bruin's free throw shooting. I'm worried about the potential chemistry issues with this team." And you're like, maybe I need to see a little bit more. And then during the last week of the regular season, you're like, "Oh no, oh no,
maybe, yeah."
Anyhow, we probably need to quickly run through some more games.
I've got UC San Diego beating Yale. I just think when you talk about 2 mid-majors in the same pod winning, UC San Diego is just better, so they're going to win.
All right, I love it. Let's keep moving on. We'll go through we'll go round by round. It's fine. I'll go over to mine super quick. Like I said, I have Louisville beating Auburn as well, and then I'll go UC San Diego just because, like you said, I don't trust this Yale team that much to make a deep run. But I like their shooting. I just think UC San Diego is a more well-oiled machine compared to Yale, and I think Aniwana Tate Jones is just going to take over. And then seeing Louisville versus UC San Diego in the Sweet 16 makes absolutely no sense, but it's also March Madness.
But it happens every year.
Nothing makes sense in March Madness. Yeah. So we're both going with that in the Sweet 16. I love it. We got Ole Miss versus Iowa State. Who are we going with?
In this one, I am going with Ole Miss.
Oh.
I think this is where it hurts. Ole Miss is a team that has played close against a lot of good teams this season. They even came out and beat Tennessee towards the end of the year. They're just a team that I like. I like the pieces that they have. I like the coaching they have. I just think this Iowa State team is a team that we look back on and go, they were going to be really good. They were going to be a top 10 team. Just the injuries to key guys just racked up, kept coming back. It was just never going to get better. And for that reason, I like Ole Miss.
Marquette, Michigan State. I feel like we've seen this game in the bracket like 1,000 times.
Yes, because it happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I feel like it always is a potential matchup in some brackets.
And it was 2-7, but flipped. It was flipped 2-7. I'm going Michigan State in this one. This Marquette team, I liked them in the way they matched up against New Mexico, but this Marquette team has just never had the juice. I kind of was trying to will it into existence when we did the conference previews. It's just not there, but they're playing a little better. I think Michigan State kind of pulls away with this one.
I want to pick UNC so bad in this spot, but I'm not. I'm going to keep rocking with Iowa State. I think they have barely just enough talent to get through those first couple rounds there. And then you're looking at Marquette versus Michigan State, like we talked about.
Is the bracket supposed to be up right now?
It's not up? No, it is. Is it not up?
Oh, I'm not seeing it.
What the crap? Uh-oh. Timeout. Technical difficulties. We'll be back in 1 second, folks. Okay, we up?
We're good.
All right. Messed up there, so shout out Riverside. Anyhow, Iowa State over San Diego State UNC there. It's saying I'm sharing. Hold up. Timeout. Okay, can you still see it?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. It said
I'll just let you know
if
we're not good.
Iowa State versus San Diego State UNC. I like Iowa State. I think their guards and everything, I don't think the injuries catch up with them enough at that spot. Marquette, Michigan State. You talked about this game. You're picking Michigan State. I hate this pick, and I'm going Marquette. I really hate this pick. I think Iowa State finds themselves in a cakewalk to this point. I think this is the best Tom Izzo coaching job I've ever seen in my lifetime, to be honest. And I haven't been locked into Michigan State basketball probably since 2009 would be my best guess. But I think in the regular season, what he's done, I think the talent of this team is honestly a bubble team, and all of a sudden they're supposed to be a Final Four contender. They're a 2 seed, and they dominated through the Big Ten the Big Ten regular season, and they bowed out exactly how Tom Izzo wanted to in the Big Ten tournament. I think that all is great and well. I think Jace Richardson is a great player, but I worry about this team. I think there's a real ceiling to this team, and I think Cam Jones and Marquette get one big win against New Mexico, and then I think they have that confidence going forward where they can beat a team like Michigan State. So that's my pick there. I know that took a little bit too long, so we'll quickly move on, and let's go here. Ben's bracket. Oh, my goodness. It is messing up on me. Florida, Oklahoma. It's not showing again. I'm telling you, Ben, we got technical difficulties left and right on here. All right. We'll get back to it. Here 1 second. You guys are going to have to deal with this. All right, Florida, Oklahoma. Who you got?
Florida.
Colorado State, Maryland.
Maryland.
All right.
A little chalky.
We'll just go through the rest of this. Drake, Texas Tech.
I am going with Texas Tech.
You wanted to pick Drake.
Yeah, I can't do it. And then St. John's.
Ooh, so you're picking against Calipari in March. It's a non-Ben thing to do. There's a lot of non-Ben things going on right now.
We've gotten to the point where you're a big Calipari stan if you just have him win a game. So I feel like I'm tipping my cap to the great John Calipari there. Pretty chalk in this region so far.
I think this region
when
is
it comes
chalky.
to Sweet 16, but
I've even done my upset special brackets, and I look at stuff, and I think the West is just very chalk. I think the matchups are very clear. I've got Florida and Maryland moving on to the Sweet 16. I think that's going to be an awesome game. And I got Texas Tech, and I got St. John's moving on. And I think that's going to be an awesome game as well. So let's move on. Let's go to the other side real quick, and then on to the East region. All right, in the East region, we have Duke versus Baylor. Who wins in Raleigh?
Duke.
All righty.
It's a competitive half.
Liberty, Arizona.
We get the Caleb Love Duke revenge game.
Okay.
Well, I don't even know revenge for who at this point. It just keeps going on. But
yeah, I feel like you see it nonstop. But BYU, Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's like the 8th Star Wars movie where you're like, I don't even know where we're at. Anyway,
it's like Anakin has like a 5th kid.
I think BYU has a greater chance of losing to VCU than they do if they match up with Wisconsin. That might be kind of a hot take, but I like BYU here.
Is that a BYU fan thing to where BYU fans love just being the underdog and they're scared of being the favorite?
Maybe. Wisconsin just seems like the kind of team that could be easily overwhelmed by BYU, whereas VCU, they're a strong mid-major that plays tougher defense than this Wisconsin team does. Wisconsin is more of an offensive team this year than they traditionally are.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Oh my goodness. I shared the wrong bracket.
That was yours?
Yeah, that was mine. Oh, I think so.
Did you have those though?
I had one difference, but I'm filling in yours right now. Who'd you have in Vandy, Alabama? Quickly,
Alabama.
Okay, so
they're too good, familiar with each other too. So
I had the same thing, except I don't think we see the rematch between Duke versus Caleb Love.
Liberty.
I think Caleb Love has a silly game in round 2, and that's how they lose. And we get Duke versus Liberty, and people are going to whine and complain and go, oh, Duke's had the easiest path ever. They got to play a 16-seed Baylor and Liberty. Everything's been made for Duke. And I think that's what people complain about in this spot. You can see it right now, can't you, Ben?
I can.
I love it. Let's scroll down here. I'll go with my bracket super quick. Houston versus Georgia. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. Houston wins it, though. I think their shot making is their most underrated part of their team this year, where I think it's better than last year. Even though Jamal Shed was awesome, Uzan has been unbelievable in Big 12 play. And on top of that, Emmanuel Sharp just hits everything, I think. I don't think that dude misses a shot.
No, the shot making ability, especially watching them in the Big 12 tournament, was eye opening. It was eye opening.
Yeah, Clemson High Point. Unfortunately, I am sussy for Hussey. I love the Huss Bus. I'm all aboard the Huss Bus. I think the Huss Bus runs out of gas against Clemson. This Clemson team is built to dominate mid-majors, in my opinion.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to scroll down here, and then we got Illinois versus Kentucky. I've got Illinois beating Kentucky. I don't think Lamont Butler can play 2 full games in this spot. I like Illinois with their talent moving on. KJ, who's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft. I love him so much. I think this Illinois team has so much potential. I've been on this Illinois team way too long, and I've talked myself into them earlier in the season, and I'm like, look, once they're healthy, once they're not having the flu and everything, they're going to make a deep run in March. And I've believed in them this whole time, and they're going to be in the Sweet 16, in my opinion, over Kentucky. And then Utah State, Tennessee. I think Tennessee rolls in this spot. I think they take care of Utah State. No problem. Now, let me stop sharing, and then let's share your bracket to make sure I get this correct. My goodness. All right, there we go. Boom. Houston, Georgia, who you got?
I've got Houston.
I love it. Clemson High Point. If you have any explanations for this, keep going, but otherwise we'll just go quickly.
Clemson.
Okay. Illinois versus Troy.
I'm going Illinois here.
Yep. UCLA, Tennessee. The game total, I am being told, is at 104.5.
I'm going Tennessee here.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of shots are going to be made in that spot. So, all right, There's the Sweet 16s for us. Let's pick the Sweet 16s. Let's get to the Elite Eight. Louisville versus UC San Diego. Who you got?
I've got Louisville in this spot.
You got Louisville in that spot. Okay, nice.
Yeah,
now,
I think it ends there for UC San Diego, a team in Illinois that's feeling themselves and just has too much talent, size, athleticism at that
Ole Miss,
stage.
Michigan State.
I'm going Michigan State here.
Tom Izzo making it back to the Elite Eight. Okay. Florida, Maryland. Who you got? This is a great game.
It's a great game. I think Florida is able to pull this one out, though. I like Texas Tech over St. John's. I just think they have multiple guys like Chance McMillan, Williams, JT Toppin that can go get you buckets. Whereas it's like really Ruiz and then sometimes Kaderi Richmond on the St. John side. I think Texas Tech, there's just a little more refined skill on the offensive side of the ball that I think gives them an advantage against St. John's.
I love it. I'm going to go Louisville in the Elite Eight as well. And you know what's so bad, Ben, is that Louisville is playing the first game on Thursday. And if they lose that game, we are cooked.
Oh, we're so cooked. This is where we talked about the 8-9 fallacy. Like, I just fell into that. The pick a 50-50 game winner to then just make a big run. It's stupid, but we're going with it.
And I'm picking Iowa State over Marquette at that point. And I think Iowa State gets a little bit more healthy, and at that point they're rolling a little bit. And I can't believe I have Iowa State there. I hate it, but they're there. Process of elimination, in my opinion. Florida versus Maryland. I have Florida. I think they're two bigs, and their guards just overwhelm Maryland. And I think Maryland's a good team and everything, but I don't think they've faced anyone like this Florida team this year, to be honest. And then Texas Tech, St. John's, and I'm rocking with the Johnnies. I love Texas Tech, and I want to pick Texas Tech in my Final Four, and they might be in my upset special bracket. I think this is setting up for a St. John's, Florida Elite Eight, and I
That'd be
cannot
awesome,
wait
though.
for it. I cannot wait. And then I'll quickly go through here. I got Duke over Liberty. I think this Duke team's the best team in the country, especially when healthy. And at that point, I think Malik Brown might be back in the second weekend. And then Alabama versus BYU. What to do? What to do? Unfortunately, I'm going to be serious here. I'm picking Alabama over BYU. I think their three-point shot making is going to be too much for them, and I think Alabama has been here before. I think they I think they flip a switch in March Madness, and I think they're kind of rolling at that point. Moving on, I've got Houston versus Clemson, and I've got Clemson taking down the Cougars. I love this Clemson team so much. I think this Clemson team is so good. I think Chase Hunter, Victor Locke, and Ian Shefflin, that's going to be the difference in this game is Clemson's bigs are not going to have an answer. Houston's not going to have an answer for Clemson's bigs in this spot. And Houston, when they're going to go against a team with legitimate size and athleticism, I think that's going to be a real problem for them because when they go against bigs that can destroy them, they've struggled a little bit. Even Hunter Dickinson had a little bit of success against them, and that Kansas-Houston game was pretty close. If Kansas could just have anybody that could step up and be somewhat of a shooter, then all of a sudden you're talking about a very, very, very different Houston-Kansas result. But Illinois versus Tennessee in this spot, I'm picking Tennessee, but I don't love it, and I wanted to pick Illinois going further, but I'm just not. I'm not going to overthink that one. Ben, let's get yours out of the way, and then we'll get the Final Four, and then we will wrap up and get out of here. All right, let me make sure I share the right one. Yep, that's it.
I think, yeah, so I've got to still do my right side of the Sweet 16.
Yep, Duke, Arizona.
Duke gets the last laugh in the Caleb Love saga. I'm going with BYU here. I just think this is an Alabama team that I don't really trust much. They've got all that talent, but if we're getting a 3-point match, I think BYU can compete with that. I think both teams chuck up a lot of threes. BYU makes them. Alabama doesn't.
All right.
Houston, Clemson. I think this is going to be the game of the Sweet 16. I think it's fantastic. I think it goes into overtime. I think Houston pulls it out, but Clemson gives them their best shot. In this Illinois-Tennessee game, I don't know if you remember, but back in December when Illinois played Tennessee, Jordan Gainey had a coast-to-coast buzzer beater to win that game. I think Illinois, and it was on Illinois' home court, I think Illinois remembers that. They come back, and this kind of team that's rolling right now is able to pull off the upset there. Got Illinois.
Ooh, okay, we got some fun ones. All right, let's pick all of your Elite Eight, and or pick your Final Four, basically, and then I'll pick mine, and then we'll do national title picks and get out of here. Louisville, Michigan State, who you got?
Louisville's been fun, but I think this is a point where Michigan State finishes off that region, gets to the Final Four.
All right. And then we got Florida versus Texas Tech. Who you got?
Florida's too good. I really like this Texas Tech team enough that I think I'm going to be very much in the minority picking them over St. John's, but I definitely, Florida's going to win that game.
This is a nightmare matchup for me. I mean, it's a win-win at the same time, but a nightmare matchup. I'll be Donna Kelsey watching this game. Maybe I'll be at the game. Who knows? But Duke versus BYU in the Elite Eight. Who you taking?
This is where it ends for BYU. Duke's going to the Final Four.
All right. And then we got Houston versus Illinois.
Houston's a little too physical against kind of an erratic Illinois team that I think shoots way too many threes in this game and misses a lot.
So if we're looking at Ben's Final Four,
it ended up being chalky.
It ended up being a little Jay Billisy, you know.
But here's the thing, though. Isn't my bracket kind of the perfect tournament?
Oh, 100%. This Final Four would be crazy.
But it would be an awesome Final Four, but at the same time, it's not like it was just chalk. There was a lot of upsets mixed in there.
If you're listening on podcast right now, Ben's Final Four is Michigan State versus Florida, and then Duke versus Houston. We'll pick those in a second after I pick my Final Four very quickly. All right, here we go. We've got Iowa State versus Louisville, a game I don't want to pick. Again, I hate this game. I hate this game. And I look at this game,
It's
I go,
terrible.
why couldn't you just be normal and pick Auburn or Michigan State or anybody else? Just pick someone else in this game. And now I have to pick this one. I have to pick Because the reason I don't want to pick Louisville is I don't want to lose my Final Four team game one. I don't want to lose them game one. Now, how legendary would it be if my Final Four team wins game one and game two? I mean, woohoo. I mean, it's an 8 seed. That would be pretty crazy. I feel terrible about it. I'm going Iowa State, and I think it's the worst pick on my board. I hate it. I absolutely despise this pick.
I hate that too.
But I don't like Michigan State. I don't like Iowa State. I actually think this draw for Auburn is actually pretty good. I just don't believe in this Auburn team, to be honest. Like, if Duke was sitting here in this bracket, I would, other than having to play Louisville in a road game, basically, I would say Duke sleepwalks through this bracket, to be honest. Or Florida.
I don't disagree.
Iowa State, yuck. Florida, St. John's, I have Florida. They're the second best. They're tied for the second best, or for the best team in the country. It's 1A, 1B with them and Duke. I don't think my issue is with St. John's is I think their shooting is going to be a problem that they can't overcome in March. Defense is unbelievable, but it is what it is. Let's move on. I got Duke, Bama. Duke wins. I don't think Alabama can handle Duke's size, and it's going to be a scary, scary game for myself as a Duke fan. Clemson, Tennessee, in this spot, I'm going Clemson. I think Clemson makes the Final Four. I think this Clemson team is so legit. I think Brad Brunell is an unbelievable coach, and I think this Clemson team is so well designed to have success in March with the mix of their bigs, their guard play, and their hard-nosed defense. I think they can play almost any style of basketball, and give me Clemson over Tennessee. I don't care they lost to Louisville in the ACC tournament. And then we got the Final Four. I'll go to your Final Four before I pick mine, and then we'll get out of here. All right. We've got, that one's mine. This one's yours. Here we go. Michigan State, Florida. Who you got?
I think this is where the run ends for Michigan State. Florida just has too much. They're just too talented, too many shot makers. They've got rim protection that Michigan State doesn't have to that degree. A lot more athleticism in the front court. Florida. And on the other side, I think this is a great game. I think although Houston plays way bigger than they are, this is where size becomes an issue, and Duke wins and goes to the national title game.
So Florida, Duke, all right, and then I'll pick mine.
I have a feeling you're going to have the same thing. I knew that when the bracket came out, I was feeling like we're going to have the same national championship.
I don't know. I think I might. Maybe I'll pick Clemson versus Iowa State.
Iowa State.
I don't know. I'm picking Florida over Iowa State. I think it's a blowout. And then we got Duke versus Clemson. I'm picking Duke. Look, people are going to point to, that game that happened to Little John. Well, if Cooper Flagg has food poisoning and the flu again, and then there's wet spots all over the court, then maybe Clemson has a chance in this spot. But like you said, and like with Houston, that's my problem with Houston in this tournament is I think eventually when they go against a team with size to combat them, I think that's going to be a real problem. So you look at the teams they played in the Big 12 tournament this year, and honestly, the Big 12 as a whole. So they play against Colorado. They absolutely stink. Okay, then they play against BYU. BYU, they're big in ways, except at the 5 position where you can exploit Houston at its best, and you can exploit Houston at that spot. And even then, BYU's 5, Keba Keita, had a decent ball game against them, but he doesn't have enough offensive ability to take over a game like I think Ian Shefflin and Victor Locken can, and like I think Duke's guys can as well if they ended up with a potential Duke-Houston matchup. But anyhow, so we both have Duke versus Florida. I think this is going to be the most popular championship matchup. I think especially for people that watch college basketball all year. I think people I shared mine again. Especially for people that are in the weeds of college basketball more, I think are going to pick this matchup because they know what's going on with Auburn. But I think Auburn to the casual fan is going to be what everybody picks. But Duke versus Florida, San Antonio to win it all in the Alamo Dome. Who you picking?
I think I've been going through the internal dilemma. You've talked about it's a family tradition, a Hammond family tradition, to pick Duke to lose as early as conceivably possible. I obviously have them in the national championship game. I had the fear that they were going to do a UConn and just run through everybody by a lot. Like I thought a week ago, I was like, okay, that's what's going to happen. And I'm prepared to pick that. I think with the injuries we've seen, I'm not sure if we're going to get Malik Brown at 100% the rest of the season. I don't know. Just the shoulder has definitely been an issue. And Cooper Flagg is a little beat up after that. And these are two teams that are just so freaking good. Because of the injury concerns I have on Duke's side, I'm going Florida.
Picking Florida to win the game. What's the score?
80-75.
80-75. All righty. Well,
I think it showed 82-75.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought you said 82-75.
No. 80-75.
All right. Well, I can't believe I'm picking Florida as well, huh? I can't believe I'm picking Florida as well, huh?
No, you're not.
I'm not picking Florida. I'm picking Duke. I'm picking Duke. Of course I was picking Duke to win this thing. They're the best team in the country. Watch some damn basketball if you don't believe me. Watch this Duke team play. Everyone's, Duke. They haven't done anything. Oh, they haven't beat a ranked opponent in forever. Where. Oh, what did they do in the ACC title game without Malik Brown, their best defender, without the best player in the country in Cooper Flagg? Oh, a top 15 team in the country. What did they do? What was that, Ben? They went out and beat them by double digits without those two players. Did not matter. Con Knipple shot 0% in that game, Ben, from three-point range. They still won by double digits in that game. I understand Florida's awesome. I've been riding the Florida train all year. I've been preaching the Florida choir nonstop. But guess what? Duke's size is going to be a problem. I know Florida has two big men that they like to play together. They're going to play them off the floor. Who is guarding Cooper Flagg in this game? If you put one of those 7-footers on Cooper Flagg, he's going to absolutely torch them off the dribble. If you play, and then you look at Florida's guards, they're unbelievable. They're super dynamic. It's going to be a great game in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. I will be there if this is the game. If it's Duke or BYU that's there, I'm going to be there. But man, oh man, I think Duke cuts down the nets in San Antonio. I think they take down Florida. I think Malik Brown is definitely healthy by this point. He's playing. And you know what I'm not worried about with Malik Brown going down, Ben, is because Patrick Gongba, that man has been a revelation to this Duke team. That man should probably be starting over Malawach. He's been playing so well. I don't worry about Malik Brown going down. Even if Malik Brown is out for this entire tournament, I still don't have concerns because that's how good Ngongba's been playing. And so, therefore, I've got Duke going all the way, man. They're the best team in the country. They have been all year. We said it on the preview show. We said, who's got the highest potential? Who can do the most in this country? It's Duke. And it's been that way all season long. And look, the changing point of this season for the Duke Blue Devils was putting Caleb Foster on the bench and bringing Sion James to the starting lineup. And since that time, people go, oh, well, what about Cooper Flagg slipping against Kentucky or slipping against Kansas? They wouldn't have even been in those spots if they started Sion James or played Isaiah Evans more. The fact, since that Auburn game, this Duke team has been basically unstoppable besides Cooper Flagg getting the flu against Clemson. You can say it's an excuse, but whatever. Say what you want. Since that Auburn game, Duke beat Auburn, and Isaiah Evans has become a flamethrower, become a top 40 pick in the NBA draft at this point. Hopefully he returns. And Duke can just beat you in so many different ways. And I know Florida can as well, but my problem is I just don't know how Florida stops Cooper Flagg if they play a game. And therefore, Duke is cutting down the nets in San Antonio. And the Duke hate begins once again. Give me Duke 84, Florida 77. And that is my bracket right there, Ben. We've got it. We've got a completed bracket. Oh, man. How disappointed? How sad are you going to be if Duke wins this title?
Not as sad as you think.
Yeah,
Duke hate the K. Duke. Yeah,
that's fair.
And you look at this team. I watch this team. Like, honestly, I've got a hot take. Duke hate is kind of like, it's kind of forced.
It's 100% forced at this point.
To a degree. Obviously, look, most people aren't going to be rooting for Duke. I'm going to make that very clear. I'm going to be rooting against Duke for a large degree. But I'm not going to be super upset. They're deserving.
Mark Titus had the best best take I've ever seen, I think.
They're just wearing the wrong uniforms.
They're just wearing the wrong uniforms. They're the most likable team in the country, but they're wearing the wrong uniforms.
But the uniform matters still a little bit.
Yeah, but
my point is I'm just not turning into a Duke fan overnight.
No, but also they, in my opinion, them and these two teams we're talking about right now, Duke and Florida, they are the two most fun teams in the country.
They are, and I respect Duke. I don't hate them as much as I did just because Coach K is not there. If Duke were playing UConn, I'd be a Duke fan.
You'd be sitting there doing Cameron crazies during the free throw lines.
Yes, yeah, no, exactly. And at this point, even if Duke played Carolina, I'd want Duke to just crush them.
That makes me feel good.
But
but
Duke isn't my least favorite team in this tournament. That's progress.
And it helps that Cooper Flagg is so likable.
He is. I was not anticipating that.
I wasn't either, to be honest. Coming into the season, I was like, I think Duke
everyone's going to hate him.
It's like Knipple, Cooper Flagg, these guys, and then everyone's like, I really like these guys. These guys are so likable. They're so nice. They're fun. Now, Carolina fans, they'd tell you that Cooper Flagg's mom is Satan herself, but Carolina fans need to look in the mirror. Oh my goodness. Did you see all that stuff on social media?
I think so.
No, because Cooper Flagg had that dunk at the end of the game, and his parents were doing the celebration. Like, F you guys, F you guys, and then they were like, F her, she shouldn't be celebrating like that. And then after the game, she was like, she saw the outrage, and she was like, yeah.
She's like, we've been berated all game.
Yeah, Carolina fans were coming up to me.
I believe them.
Yes.
Well, also, like, adults aren't doing that unless like provoked. You know what I mean?
Or also, your kid just had a game-clinching dunk against their arch rival on the road. You can celebrate. Who cares?
No, for sure. But there was a little extra, like they were pissed. That's why they're doing it. Yeah, and good for them.
Yeah.
So.
Screw Carolina fan. Carolina somehow has this amazing PR, yet their fans are awful. Awful. I hope every Carolina fan's listening to this going, if you made it to this point of the podcast, I mean, I don't think you're a Carolina fan.
I agree.
But anyhow, all right, that wraps it up from us. I will be doing a pick show earlier at sometime this week, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm going to be going through the spreads and the over-unders of these games, giving out some picks for all the people betting on these games in March Madness. And then also we'll be doing live reactions in person Thursday through Sunday after the slate of games, and we'll be tweeting a bunch from the KarterKast Twitter account and putting out graphics and everything like that. So go follow at KarterKast on everything, at BDHammond28, at CarterBA. Download SeatGeek, use code KarterKast, $20 off your first purchase. Download SeatGeek. If you're going to a game, you're going to Denver, you're going to the BYU game, download SeatGeek, use code KarterKast, $20 off. Verified 100% legit tickets at SeatGeek.com. At KarterKast on everything, and we will see you guys later this week. And send us your brackets. Oh, and the other thing, I can't believe I didn't point this out, KarterKast Bracket Challenge. If you're listening to this right now, the bracket group will be live, and just all you have to do is $5 bind. If you want to do a free one, go to the Church Ball account. That's a different one. You want to do it's a $5 bind. You Venmo, you just DM me on Twitter or DM me on some social media, whatever, and then say, hey, I want to join the bracket group. Send me $5, and then you're in the bracket group. Winner take all, ESPN Bracket Group Challenge, KarterKast 2025. Go check it out, and I can't wait. Come find out. If you see our brackets right here. These are going to be the brackets that are in the KarterKast Bracket Group Challenge. See if you know more ball than us. Ben.
Yeah, we dare you. We dare you.
You're going to win.
I'm so excited.
One of the wives are going to win, so it's bullcrap anyways.
Yeah, no, my dog's going to be filling out another bracket this year.
But anyhow, download SeatGeek, use code KarterKast, $20 off your first purchase, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.